Have you ever finished a mix and hit export and thought, wait, why does this sound different to me? Or maybe you've uploaded a track to Spotify only to find out that they wanted a totally different file format than the one that your DAW gave you. Here's the reality. The file type that you choose can either protect your sound or wreck it, depending on where you are in the process. Today, I'm breaking down the most common audio file types, what they're best for, where they might trip you up, and some simple rules of thumb that could save you from headaches, wasted hard drive space, and bad-sounding releases. Hey, I'm Kevin, the founder of Innovaniac Music, where I help indie artists turn creativity into real growth. Everything that I share here comes from my real-world studio work. There's not always a lot of theory, but there's definitely never any fluff. This video is actually inspired by a question from one of my viewers who was feeling overwhelmed by the techie options and wanted a simple breakdown made easy. Let's start with the heavyweights, WAV and AIFF. These are uncompressed formats, and that means every single detail of your audio gets preserved. And that's why they're really the gold standard for recording and mixing and mastering. But here's the catch. Are you ready to sacrifice hard drive space for the perfect sound? WAV came from Microsoft and IBM back in 1991. It's reliable, it's compatible everywhere, and it's my personal go-to in my DAW. AIFF is Apple's version from 1988. If you're in Logic or Apple's ecosystem, you're probably going to run into it. The downside to these, huge file sizes. I have burned through many external hard drives just storing these files. But when quality is the king, these are your best bet. And here's something that some producers might miss. AIFF supports richer metadata, for example, the artist name, track title, copyright info, and that's great for catalogs and sync licensing. WAV, though, is safer for collaborations because it just works everywhere. So which one do I recommend for your day-to-day work? Keep it simple, export it to WAV every time. Now let's talk FLAC and ALAC. Think of these as WAV and AIFF's leaner cousins. Same basic, lossless quality, but smaller file sizes. Sounds perfect, right? So why don't the pros just use these all the time? Well, because while they save space, they can actually cause workflow hiccups, and time is money. Some DAWs choke on FLAC and ALAC, and plugins and automation tend to run smoother with WAV. Metadata quirks can cause headaches when exporting stems. And that's why when a client sends me FLACs, the first thing that I do, honestly, is convert them to WAV. But here's where they do shine, which is archiving. If you want to back up your masters without filling another external hard drive, FLAC is definitely your friend. FLAC is an open source and it plays almost anywhere. ALAC is Apple's version, it's seamless in Logic and Apple's ecosystem. So here's the takeaway. For production, WAV. For storage and archiving, FLAC. Or ALAC if you're an Apple person. Okay, here's where things get interesting. If WAV is the king of the studio, then what about the formats the world actually listens to? Enter MP3, AAC, and OGG. These are lossy formats. They shrink your files by throwing out the data that the computer thinks that you won't notice. But the question is, do listeners really notice the difference? A lot of people would say yes. MP3 is the OG digital format from 1993. It plays everywhere, but it loses more quality at the same bitrate. Maybe it's great for demos, but probably not too much else. AAC is smarter than MP3. It has better highs, better stereo fields, and it's the standard for Apple Music and YouTube. OGG is an open source. It's excellent at low bit rates, and my understanding is this is Spotify's go-to format. So which one wins? Well, again, for demos, maybe MP3 is fine. For streaming, AAC and OGG are going to be the go-tos. But for releasing your music to the world, always just start with WAV and let your distributor handle the conversions. So, see the pattern? WAV is going to be your anchor. That was a lot of info, so let's just strip it down to these three simple rules. In the studio, WAV or AIFF. For distribution, upload WAV to your distributor. And for archiving, use FLAC to save space without losing quality. Follow these, and you're going to avoid 99% of the file type mistakes that derail indie artists. And at the end of the day, audio file types are just tools. The key is knowing which one belongs at which stage of the process. If you can get that right, you're going to avoid headaches, wasted time, and lost quality. If this breakdown helped you at all, hit that like button. It tells YouTube to share this with more musicians who need it. And if you want more no-fluff production strategies that actually work in the real world, Subscribe and stick around. I've got a lot more coming your way. Until the next time, dream big and create boldly.